to Roll Credits, where movie lovers get the trivia they didn't know they needed. This podcast was created with help from AI tools, so double-check any quotes before you drop trivia at your next movie night. Today, we're heading into space with the idea of the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Did you know the original game introduced Rosalina, one of the most beloved characters in the Mario universe, with one of the franchise's most emotional backstories? And before we get into it, drop a comment and let us know what movie or show we should cover next, old or new.
Yeah, I'm so excited to finally talk about this one.
Right. All right, so let's officially kick off today's deep dive. Welcome in. So picture this. Imagine you just made like $1.36 billion by playing it incredibly, incredibly safe.
Right, you found the golden ticket.
Exactly. So the logical move, the Hollywood move, is you just do it again, right? But today we're looking at how Nintendo essentially took the safest playbook in Hollywood history and just they threw it right out the window.
Completely shredded it.
Yeah. I mean, it is April 9, 2026, which means it has been just over a week since the Super Mario Galaxy movie blasted into theaters on April 1st, by the way, no joke there. And it is already completely shattering global box office records.
Which is just wild to watch happen in real time.
It really is. So for you listening, we have a massive stack of sources to pull from today. We've got exclusive interviews with Illumination CEO Chris Meledandri, insights from Nintendo's legendary Shigeru Miyamoto, detailed production notes from the composer Brian Tyler, and we are also digging deep into some seriously deep lore gaming wikis.
Oh yeah, we went down the rabbit hole for this one.
We really did. So our mission for you today is to extract the why and the how behind this film. We want to unpack the surprising trivia, the honestly massive emotional storytelling shifts, and all those behind-the-scenes secrets of how Nintendo bypassed making a standard safe sequel to launch this sprawling, cosmos-spanning cinematic universe.
It's just, it really is one of the most fascinating creative pivots we've seen in modern animation. I mean, think about it. When you look at the 2023 Super Mario Bros. Movie, conventional Hollywood wisdom dictates that you just, replicate that exact formula.
Fucking an algorithm.
Exactly. You give the audience the Mushroom Kingdom Part 2, you bring in Yoshi, maybe you adapt some elements from Super Mario World, and boom, you collect your $1 billion.
Yeah, and that's why the ambition here is just so wild to me. I keep thinking about it like an analogy. Imagine you own the most successful theme park in the entire world. It's printing money. The absolute undeniable next step is to just build a new wing, right? Like add a new roller coaster, maybe open a Donkey Kong area, call it a day.
Yeah, the safe bet.
But instead, Nintendo and Illumination essentially decided to build a literal spaceship, strap the audience in, and just leave the planet entirely. They bypassed decades of beloved, grounded video games to jump straight into the cosmic, gravity-defying weirdness of Super Mario Galaxy.
And, what is so compelling about that massive leap is the underlying philosophy behind it.
Yeah.
If we look at the interviews with Miyamoto and Meledandri, they explicitly state that during their earliest collaborations for this new film, they never once framed it as a sequel.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they constantly referred to it as the next movie. And that distinction is actually crucial. Miyamoto felt that the first movie served as the definitive foundational adventure in the Mushroom Kingdom. To stay there would just be, iterative.
Just doing the same thing again.
Right. The next evolution required expanding the canvas. Super Mario Galaxy offered these unparalleled cinematic possibilities. I mean, you're talking about gravity-defying planets, spherical world navigation, vibrant interstellar environments that just, they pop on a massive theater screen.
Oh, the visuals are insane.
But beyond the visual spectacle, it offered something much more important, which is a profound emotional anchor.
And that emotional anchor is, of course, Princess Rosalina, voiced by Brie Larson.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the biggest and honestly most heavily debated lore drop in the entire film. If you've seen it, you know the moment. We find out that Princess Peach, played again by Anya Taylor-Joy and Rosalina, are actually long-lost sisters.
Yep, the big reveal.
They were born of stardust, and Rosalina sent baby Peach down to the Mushroom Kingdom to protect her from this looming cosmic threat. Now, I have to admit, when I first saw that in the theater, I bristled a little bit.
Really? You weren't into it?
Well, as a fan of the games, changing 19 years of established lore just for a movie plotline felt, I don't know, like a corporate mandate. It felt like a studio forcing a dramatic connection just to build a cinematic universe,
Yeah, no, it's completely understandable to have that initial reaction. It looks like a radical departure designed purely for Hollywood drama. But when you dig into the deep lore wikis and the actual development history of the original 2007 Wii game, this retcon isn't new at all.
Wait, really?
Yeah. It is actually the resurrection of a 19-year-old scrapped concept. During the original Super Mario Galaxy's development, Rosalina was fundamentally designed to be related to Peach.
Oh, wow.
If you look at them side by side, it's why their character designs, like the hair parting, the specific facial structure, the royal aesthetic, they're so strikingly similar.
See, that completely changed the context for me. I actually went back into those development logs after reading our sources, and I realized I was completely wrong to cynically dismiss it.
It's a brilliant piece of gaming history, honestly.
Yeah.
The original game's director, Yoshiaki Koizumi, actually wrote Rosalina's storybook, which is the incredibly melancholic in-game fable that explains her backstory. He wrote it late at night in secret.
In secret. That's amazing.
Right, because at the time, trying to inject deep, emotional storytelling into a Mario platformer was almost taboo. He eventually presented it to Miyamoto, and while the core story of Rosalina losing her mother and adopting the star-like Lumas made it into the final game, the explicit familial connection to Peach was cut just to keep the narrative streamlined.
Okay, wow. So by bringing that connection back for the film, they aren't like rewriting history at all.
No, exactly. They are actually honoring the original undeleted creative vision from 2007.
Which is such a cool way to approach an adaptation. But, it still begs the question for me, why make that specific change now? Because it does alter the fabric of these characters in a pretty massive way.
It alters them, yeah, but it alters them by solving massive, lingering narrative problems for both of them. Let's look at Peach, right?
Okay.
For decades in the games, she rarely had a backstory beyond benevolent ruler of the Mushroom Kingdom who frequently gets kidnapped.
Right, the classic damsel in distress.
Exactly. This film's revelation gives her profound agency. It transforms her from a perpetual damsel, or even just a capable leader, into a protector with this cosmic stardust origin. She finally has a driving narrative purpose that explains why she is so fiercely protective of her kingdom.
Oh, I love that.
And for Rosalina, it actually saves her from her incredibly tragic video game backstory. In the 2007 game, she is essentially doomed to wander the cosmos alone forever, grieving her mother. The film's sisterly connection gives them both a powerful bond that drives the emotional stakes of the movie. It anchors all that crazy space action with a genuinely moving family dynamic.
That makes total sense. I mean, it takes Peach from just being a royal set piece to having this rich, mysterious, interwoven origin. And you really feel that emotional weight in the movie. Like, it hits you right in the chest during those scenes.
Oh, absolutely.
But, that emotion isn't just coming from the script or the voice acting. It's because of what's happening in the background. The music in this film is staggering, which leads us perfectly into the score, and specifically the unbelievable story behind composer Brian Tyler.
Oh, man, this story.
When I read this in our sources, my jaw genuinely dropped. He wrote parts of this massive 70-piece orchestral score in secret, entirely from a hospital bed.
Yeah, it is an absolute testament to his dedication to the craft.
Yeah.
Very few people on the production team, and certainly no one in the public, even knew he was hospitalized at the time.
That's insane.
He felt such an immense pressure to get the emotional resonance of Rosalina and Peach's story right.
Yeah.
And, a deep responsibility to the fans who have cherished this music since 2007 that he just simply refused to stop working. He actually layered in over 300 distinct musical references to classic Mario games while lying in that hospital bed, just reviewing orchestral mock-ups on his laptop.
300 Easter eggs. See, this is where my brain starts to hurt a little. Because if you tell me a movie score has 300 nostalgic callbacks packed into it, my immediate thought is that it's going to sound like a chaotic fan service soundboard.
Right, just noise.
Yeah, like someone steps on a Goomba and you just hear the classic boop sound effect and it completely takes you out of the cinematic experience. How on earth did he manage to pack all of that in without it becoming totally grating?
Well, that is exactly the trap he was trying to avoid. Tyler has a very strict philosophy regarding those musical Easter eggs. It is never just a wink for a wink's sake.
Okay.
He explicitly stated that he didn't want any reference to do a disservice to the emotion of the scene. Everything, first and foremost, had to serve the storytelling. To manage this incredibly complex web of sweeping original themes and nostalgic callbacks, he utilized what he described in interviews as a beautiful mind-style grid approach.
Oh, wow. Just picture that for a second. Like a giant sprawling chalkboard covered in frantic mathematical equations, but instead of math, it's pure music theory.
Precisely. He essentially mapped out complex musical scales, cross-referencing them with character beats, emotional arcs, and specific moments of action on screen. For example, he might write a piece in a Lydian scale for a scene where Mario is navigating a zero-gravity environment.
A Lydian scale.
Yeah, so for those who might not know, a Lydian scale has this raised fourth note that makes it sound inherently unresolved and dreamy. It almost sounds like it's floating. It's the perfect auditory representation of space.
That is so cool. So he builds this floaty space-like foundation first.
Exactly. He builds the emotional foundation. And then he consults his grid to calculate how to seamlessly weave an old 8-bit melody into the woodwinds as an antiphonal response.
Wait, an antiphonal response? What is that?
So it's a technique where two groups of instruments act almost like they're having a conversation, like a kind of call and answer within the orchestra.
Oh, okay.
So the soaring strings might play the new cinematic melody, and then the flutes answer back with a perfectly timed, subtle variation of an old 1985 Mario tune, perfectly matched to a character casually walking by in the background.
Wow.
It is a staggering level of musical architecture. It's not just slapping a sound effect on top. It's weaving the nostalgia into the very DNA of the orchestra.
And the specificity of the character themes built from that grid really stood out to me. Take Yoshi, for example. You've got Donald Glover voicing him, which, by the way, just brilliant casting. And Tyler gives Yoshi this very specific, jazzy, trap-influenced theme.
Yeah, it's so unique.
At first, you might think, why does a dinosaur have a trap beat? But then you remember the film's lore. Yoshi's egg was sucked into the real world and hatched in the Brooklyn sewers. So the composer uses that trap beat to give him a grounded, street-smart edge that perfectly contrasts with the sweeping cosmic orchestra of the rest of the film.
Right, and you can contrast that street-smart vibe with Benny Safdie's Bowser Jr. Tyler described the music he wrote for him as sweet, but deeply mischievous.
That fits so perfectly.
It really does. The orchestration relies heavily on playful pizzicato strings, where the musicians pluck the strings instead of bowing them. The music perfectly reflects a kid who is trying his absolute hardest to be as nefarious and evil as possible, simply to impress his villainous dad. It's surprisingly touching.
It is.
And then, at the core of it all, you have Rosalina's theme, which Tyler explicitly designed as a family theme. It's this beautiful, aspirational melody about searching the cosmos for a sister you didn't know you had.
The music is just doing so much heavy lifting emotionally. But we absolutely have to talk about what is undoubtedly my favorite musical moment in the entire film.
Oh, I think I know what you're going to say.
The track is called The Flight Deck. It happens when Peach and the Mario brothers are desperately trying to get to the space junk galaxy to rescue Rosalina, and they realize they need a pilot. So they head to this spaceport, and they hire Fox McCloud from Star Fox, voiced by Glenn Powell.
Such a great moment.
When he steps onto the ship, Tyler brilliantly blends the sweeping Mario Galaxy score with the adrenaline-pumping Star Fox theme from the Super Nintendo days. It genuinely had goosebumps.
It's a masterclass in musical integration, certainly.
Yeah.
But more importantly, that musical blend isn't just a cool audio trick. It's the exact moment this movie reveals its true ambition. The introduction of Fox McCloud isn't just a fun cameo. It's the movie's biggest surprise, and it casually teases a massive interconnected Nintendo universe.
Okay, let's hover on Fox McCloud and Yoshi for a second, because the behind-the-scenes reality of how these actors got involved is fantastic. Our sources confirm that Glenn Powell and Donald Glover literally cold-called the studio after the first Mario movie came out, actively pitching themselves for these roles.
Yeah, they just picked up the phone.
Powell apparently has always dreamed of being in a Star Fox movie, and Glover just desperately wanted to be involved in a Nintendo project. It's wild that A-list actors are essentially begging to be voice cameos. But here is where my cynical modern moviegoer brain kicks in.
Oh.
With all these characters popping up, you have Pikmin cameos, Star Fox flying the ship, Donkey Kong in the background. Is Nintendo just building a giant, exhausting, Marvel-style boardroom roadmap? Like, are we just marching toward a Super Smash Bros. Movie in 2032 where every single cameo is just a stepping stone we have to take notes on?
It's a very natural assumption to make, honestly. If you look at the current landscape of Hollywood franchises, everything feels like homework lately. But Miyamoto and Meledandri provided a deeply counterintuitive insight during their interviews that should really put those fears to rest. They explicitly stated that they aren't making a 10-year wall chart plan. When people hear the phrase cinematic universe, they instantly imagine a boardroom full of executives in suits mapping out a decade of intersecting plot lines on a whiteboard.
Right.
But Miyamoto describes their universe building as incidental rather than strategic.
Incidental. I love that word, but it also sounds kind of terrifying for a multi-billion-dollar intellectual property. So they're basically just like making it up as they go.
Well, it's not that they lack a vision, but rather that their creative process prioritizes the immediate joy of the scene over future franchise obligations.
Yeah.
Decisions are made based simply on what would be fun right now.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, for instance, Fox McCloud wasn't forced into this movie because a corporate mandate dictated they need to set up a Star Fox franchise by Q3 of 2028.
Yeah.
He was included because the narrative organically required an ace pilot to navigate the cosmos, and Miyamoto just thought, wouldn't it be thrilling if Fox was hanging around a spaceport?
And his backstory fits so perfectly into the immediate plot. Like, it doesn't feel wedged in at all. He explains in this gorgeous retro 2D animated flashback sequence, by the way, that his warp drive broke, stranding him in Mario's universe, and he blames his mechanic Slippy Toad.
Classic Slippy.
You're right. It's such a brilliant detail. It doesn't feel like a heavy-handed corporate setup. It feels like a hilarious, perfectly logical reason for this specific character to be hanging out at a gritty spaceport in the Gateway Galaxy.
Exactly. And that organic, incidental approach extends directly into the post-credits scenes. These scenes tease the future without feeling like, mandatory homework assignment.
Yeah.
Think about the first one. At the end of the film, Fox uses the money he earned helping Mario and Peach to finally fix his warp drive, and he heads back to the Lilat system. Yes, it naturally leaves the door open for a Star Fox spin-off starring Glenn Powell, but it also perfectly concludes his arc in this specific movie.
The end credits are so rich because of that exact philosophy. We also get that scene with Bowser, who, remember, was dropped in a sun and is now surviving as the skeletal, rattling, dry Bowser, and Bowser Jr., and they are locked up in this interstellar maximum security prison.
Oh, this scene is gold.
And who is their guard? Lumily, the hilariously morbid blue teardrop-shaped star from the first film, who is entirely obsessed with the sweet release of death.
Just hovering there.
She's just hovering outside their cell, cheerfully taunting them, telling them their bones will eventually turn to dust. It is incredibly funny, but it organically sets up a potential father-son prison break movie down the line without detracting from Rosalina's story.
And we absolutely cannot forget the final post-credits stinger. Back in the Gateway Galaxy, that pesky monkey thief from the games, Ukiki, is trying to rob another traveler at the spaceport.
Oh, yes.
And he is stopped by none other than Princess Daisy, making her big screen debut. She doesn't even have any dialogue, she just steps in, but her mere presence expands the universe yet again. What is vital to understand here is that none of these setups compromise the core emotional story of the Super Mario Galaxy movie. They are fun, natural, incidental extensions of the world.
So if we pull all the way back, what does this all mean for us as viewers? It brings me to a final provocative thought I really want to leave you with today. We have spent the last decade watching Hollywood studios announce these massive, rigid 15-movie master plans.
Yeah, the endless roadmaps.
Exactly. They trot out complete timelines with release dates stretching deep into the 2030s. And so often we watch those franchises collapse under their own weight because the creators forget to just make a good, standalone, emotionally resonant movie first. The connective tissue becomes more important than the heart. It's a huge problem.
It is. So if Nintendo is successfully building a multi-billion-dollar cinematic universe based purely on what feels fun in the moment, this highly spontaneous, incidental approach that puts the immediate story first, could this become the new gold standard for Hollywood franchise building? Could the secret to a successful cinematic universe simply be, well, not planning one at all? It is definitely something for you to chew on the next time a massive studio rolls out a giant, interconnected timeline chart at a press conference.
That's a great point. Less roadmap, more story.
And that wraps our journey into the possibilities of the Super Mario Galaxy movie. If you enjoyed exploring where the Mario universe could go next, follow Roll Credits and share it with your fellow fans. And don't forget to drop a comment with what movie or show we should cover next, old or new. We'll be back soon with more trivia, more movie magic, and maybe a few more trips across the galaxy.